Good morning, everyone. So today is Saturday, the 20th of December 2025, and the Christmas is right around the corner. And this is our 212th session of Mindfulness for Beginners in English, conducted by Nisa Noane. And I would like to welcome Venerable Umagama Dhammakusalatero for this session all the way from Nisa Noane. And we would also like to welcome everyone who is joining into this session live via Zoom and YouTube live streaming, and those who are downloading this to watch later. Our program will commence as usual with the in-session practice of mindfulness, which will be guided by Venerable Dhammakusalatero. Then we will move on to the talk on today's topic, which is polarity. Try to chop off a single pole from a magnet, which is inspired by Alan Watts. Finally, we will be moving to the Q&A and reports from listeners, which will also be guided by Venerable Dhammakusalatero. So that's how the program is going to go. And so I just want to begin the session by inviting Venerable Dhammakusalatero for the in-session practice of mindfulness. Swaminatha.
Thanks, Darindu. Hello, everyone. So we'll start today's session with a few minutes of mindful sitting practice. For this, feel free to turn on video and join more actively. If we sit in a comfortable manner, make sure that your posture is balanced and comfortable. Once you are balanced and comfortable in your posture, you can gently close your eyes. Now you are seated and you have your eyes closed. Simply be present. And you can see how various objects come into your field of awareness. The sounds are there. Various thoughts, memories might appear. And certain bodily sensations are also there. Notice how it is changing between the sounds and the silence in between. How the bodily sensations are there, but they appear on the background of or the fabric of no feeling. Breath is appearing out of nowhere and dissolving into the same. Thoughts are appearing out of nowhere and after a while dissolve into the same. This way you can see the mind is rapidly moving between the feeling and no feeling. let's continue to be mindful of this change. When you are feeling things, simply know, simply become aware that you are feeling these things. When you experience no feeling, simply become aware that you experience no feeling. This way, let's continue our mindfulness for a few more minutes. Okay, everyone. That's our time to do a mindful sitting session today. Now you can open your eyes. So this is just to give you an idea about the practice. And with that, Tarindu, you can take over.
Thank you, Saminas. Well, the next is Dhamma talk based on the topic for this week, which is polarity. Try to chop off a single pole from a magnet, inspired by Ellen Watts. So I would like to invite Venerable Dhamma Kusilatero once again for the Dhamma talk.
Okay, everyone. So this is a continuation from last week, and we will take some time to discuss further on the same topic. Now, let's say in today's meditation, we were simply being aware about our senses. If we take the sounds, you can time to time hear the sounds, but these sounds appear on the surface of silence. So what we experience as sounds, it is always a combination between the sounds and the silence. That's how we experience sounds. If you are simply experiencing silence, then you won't feel anything. If you are simply experiencing sounds only, then that too won't mean anything. So it is always a rapid change between the sounds and silence we identify as music, or we identify as somebody talking. That's how our senses work. And let's take another one, probably touch, tactile sensations. Now, the breathing would be a good example for this. It is always on and off. There is a change. You can feel the in-breath, then there is a gap. You can then feel the out-breath. Again, there's a gap. That way, it is always changing with on and off conditions. You feel the touch and there is no touch. That's how you experience touch sensations. Otherwise, if it is no feeling, no touch, then you won't notice anything. If it is always touching, touch points, if it is always on, then that too isn't noticeable. It is always these on and off conditions that we notice as touch. This way, it is applicable for other sensors as well, right? So always it is on and off conditions. That's how these sensors work. But the unfortunate thing is that our attention only goes to this on part. We only notice the sounds, we don't notice the silence in between. We only notice the touch. We don't notice the no touch part. This way, usually our attention always go to the on condition. If you are feeling a toothache, then you might come and complain, saying a tooth, it's aching. But nobody talks about the rest of the teeth that that aren't aching. Yes. So we always complain about the on condition. Let's say sometimes your mind is restless. Sometimes you get various thoughts, non-stop thinking happens. You complain about this situation. My mind is restless. I can't think clearly. Right? So the complaint is all about thoughts. But sometimes your mind is empty. There are no thoughts, or at least the thoughts are minimum. Those situations, you are not usually complaining about them. You might not even notice them. You might fall asleep telling that it's so boring. Right? So that way, you can see these sensors, they always work as a duality or polarity, we can say. But the unfortunate thing is that we don't notice this polarity. We always notice a single part of it, and we have a story to tell. We complain about them. Sometimes we chase after them. But this is not how the life works. It is always on and off conditions, like a vibration, like a wave. Sometimes you are feeling things, sometimes simply those feelings are not there. Right? So, this way, it's always on and off conditions that we feel in our senses. That's how the senses work. And you only notice this on part, on condition. But the whole idea is to understand that there is a polarity in these situations. Both sounds and silence, they are together. They are a polarity. Touch and no touch, they are together. They are a polarity. This is how we experience the world. This is how our senses work. It is important to understand this inseparable nature of things. I have seen this on YouTube as well. There is a world renowned music play. The name of that part is called 4 minutes and 33 seconds. And if you go watch on YouTube, you can find that video where a man, the performer, goes and sit in front of a piano, and the whole play is about 4 minutes and 33 seconds silence. That's all. That's the whole play. Right? So you can see probably you can hear that the audience is getting anxious because nothing is happening. They sometimes get distracted. Sometimes people cough, start talking. So that way, the silence is not appreciated. They want the music. but they don't know, they don't feel the silence in between. They don't get to experience that. So when the music is simply silence, it's hard to appreciate. If you go to the comment section of that video, you can find a lot of jokes. Some people are saying, I set this as my alarm and I didn't wake up. Or I set this as my ringtone and nobody called me. Right? So that way people are making fun of it. They don't understand that this is a polarity. They don't appreciate the silence. They appreciate the sounds. They don't appreciate the gap between sensations. They appreciate the sensations. They don't complain about no thought situations. They always complain about thoughts. Right? So that way, usually we perceive only one side of it. But the whole idea is that this is a polarity, and if you are hearing sounds, then there is always silence in between. If you are feeling thoughts, there's always gaps in between. If you are feeling bodily sensations, there's always no sensation, gaps are there. Right? So that way, the whole existence or the life, it's a polarity. It's a wave, it's a vibration. Usually, a single part of this polarity grabs our attention and we try to celebrate, we try to hold on to it. When the other part comes, we try to fight it. For example, let's say we are living in a world where people celebrate birthdays. Even little children, adults, all of them are celebrating. It's my birthday. I am this many years old, they would say. Right? They cut a cake, make a wish, and simply celebrate life, celebrate the birthday. But when that person is dead, that's not something to be celebrated. That feels dark, that feels hurtful, full of sorrow, right? So it's not okay to celebrate that part. We only want to celebrate a certain part or one part of this existence. We try to deny, we try to suppress the other part. But whenever someone is born, when life happens, of course, along with that, death comes because it's a polarity. You can't deny that. It's like the change between daytime to the nighttime. Nowadays, winter season, you are experiencing shorter daytime. The nighttime is longer, right? But 6 months into the year, you get to experience the opposite side of it. The daytime is longer, nighttime becomes shorter, right? So that's life, that's how it is. It is changing between the daytime and the nighttime. End of the daytime is the beginning of the nighttime. End of the nighttime is the beginning of the daytime. That's how the world works. Let's say in your life, you prefer to experience joy. We have certain joyful moments. But along with that joy, always comes sadness or sorrow. We can't fight that part. We can't deny that part. You might try, but still you are unsuccessful. No matter how much you try to suppress the other part, it is always there. Right? Even with in your relationships with other people, sometimes they behave according to your liking. Sometimes they don't behave like that. So when they behave according to your liking, you are happy. You feel like spending more and more time with them. When they don't behave according to your liking, then you get depressed. You feel like, aloneness is better. Right? So that way, you only want to experience people who will do things according to your liking only. But that's not the world. Even the closest family members, sometimes they do things that you don't like. Right? So it's always changing between these two states. We try to find fault with the other person. But you have to understand this is the life that we live. Right? It's always a polarity. One thing is there, the opposite quality comes after a while. Right? So simply becoming aware of this would be our practice. Now let's say a beginner to mindfulness, they might start their practice, continue for a few days, and as a result, they get to experience that there are silence in between sounds. There's a gap in between the in-breath and the out-breath, right? So naturally, the attention evolves into noticing the off part as well. And even sometimes in meditation interviews, we encourage them to notice the no feeling. They come and complain, my back is paining, aching. Of course, the back is paining, aching, that grabs your attention. But if you simply keep your mind open, you will notice that rest of your body is quite comfortable. It's only the back that aches. The rest of your body is fine. Yes, so that part we usually miss, but we encourage you to notice that part. When your knee joint is paining, you can simply observe the other knee, which is quite comfortable. When a tooth is aching, simply notice the other 31. If you got 31, yes. Notice the other 31 teeth. They are quite comfortable. Right? So that way, in mindfulness practice, we start with the feeling part on part. We start with the touch of the breath, but gradually your attention evolves into noticing the opposite side as well. Right? It comes as a part of the practice. When you continue your meditation, naturally, your attention evolves into noticing the gap in between the breath. Your attention evolves into noticing the silence in between sounds. Your attention evolves into noticing the parts where you feel no sensation. people come and say, in meditation, after 10-15 minutes, I couldn't feel certain parts of my body. They say that. Or sometimes in walking practice, they say, the middle part of my feet or the sole is not touching. They start with the parts that are touching, probably the heel and the ball of your feet. But gradually, the attention evolves into the missing part, the part that's not touching. Right? So, this way, the practice evolves. Sometimes the beginners, they try to force themselves into the silence. They try to force themselves into the gap between the in-breath and the out-breath. That's usually not successful. Many people, they end up with headaches or some chest pains, things like that. You can't force your attention like that. It is not ready to notice that part. So what can you do? But you simply develop your practice when the time is right. Naturally, you start to notice the remaining part of it. That's how it is. Right? That way, gradually, you have to develop your practice. And one of the sessions, probably like a couple of weeks ago, some other session, we were reading through a certain part of Buddha's teachings, and there the word manifestation or manifesting was used. So usually this modern world, they have a different kind of a manifesting idea. That's not the idea that was taught in Buddha's teachings, but manifesting of some other faculties. That particular discourse, it was talking about manifesting 5 spiritual faculties. So what can you do? How to manifest them? You simply do your daily training, do the walking session, do the sitting session, repetitively practice, continue for few weeks, few months, and as a result, your faculties are developed. Your faculties are cultivated. Your faculties are manifested. With those developed faculties, you get to see the reality of the world. Still, the faculties are under development, so you might get a glimpse of the reality. Your blindness disappears into a certain level. Right? So those faculties, you can't force them. That's not how it works. Now we have this foreigner these days. He has been here for like almost like 2 months. And in a week, probably he will leave. He is a guy who tries to control, plan everything. That type of a person. Right? So probably a year ago, he came here and stayed for a couple of weeks. And this time his stay is for a couple of months. So I can see now, since the end of his stay is approaching, he is getting more and more anxious day by day. What is the reason? He feels like I haven't achieved my goal. after spending 2 months, I can feel that my mind kept giving various excuses day by day, telling today we will avoid meditation, tomorrow we will do. That type of deceiving mind he has been experiencing, and now his stay is coming to an end. So he is getting more and more anxious. He's saying, I want to achieve this, I want to get this, I want to finish the job that I have started. But the unfortunate thing is that more anxious he gets, further away he will go from those whatever things he wants to achieve. It's not how the meditation works. Instead, you have to do your part. You have to allow the faculties to grow naturally. You can't force them. That's not how the faculties work, right? So gradually you do your daily meditation. You try to be somewhat mindful in your daily life. That way you continue for a while, continue for a few months. And as a result of that effort, you can clearly see now my mind has more clarity, and I am increasingly seeing closer to the reality. That's how it is. More you practice, more closer you come to the reality. More the faculties grow, more closer you experience this reality of the world. So you have to cultivate, you have to manifest, you have to develop these faculties, and as a result, you get to experience or understand the duality or the polarity of this world. Otherwise, we can have a discussion, but when you go to your daily life, you'll be having the same foolishness in your mind. It hasn't changed. You talk about the polarity of life, but you will always go and complain about the sounds. You will always complain about the pains, aches. That's how the minds are. It's not your fault personally. It's the nature of this mind, right? So how to overcome this? You have to gradually develop, cultivate these faculties. In developing them, cultivating them, you can't force it. Instead, it's like, allowing a plant to grow. You can do your part and simply allow the plant to grow on itself. What is your part? You do your daily sitting, walking. You try to be mindful in your daily life. That's all you can do. And as a result, the tree or these faculties, they will grow. What are these faculties? In a way we can say faith, then effort or energy, then mindfulness, concentration, wisdom. These things are the internal spiritual faculties. And there are certain qualities about them. Let's say, usually these faculties are imbalanced. These four of them, we can say they are like counterbalance. For example, faith. If you have too much faith, then that very quality will leads you towards blindness. You blindly believe in all the garbage that's there, right? So faith only won't do. Then let's say wisdom is the counterbalance. If wisdom quality is there, if only wisdom is there, then that'll lead you into a dry heart. So you can say, see, faith and wisdom, they support each other as counterbalance. Then concentration. If the concentration is too strong, then that might lead you into sloth. Sloth appears and you fall asleep. Then the counterbalance for that would be effort. When the effort is too high, your mind becomes restless. So that foreigner, his effort is too much. As a result, his mind is always restless. Right? So concentration and effort, they too act like counterbalance for each other. Only the quality of mindfulness doesn't need a counterbalance. Mindfulness will be more like the supervisor out of all these 5 faculties. If your faith directs you towards blindness, mindfully you can notice that I am directed towards this direction. If your wisdom is making your heart dry, then that very fault will be observed by mindfulness. So this way, mindfulness is like a supervisor out of these 5 faculties, right? So these qualities we can talk about. Many people, they get it wrong, trying to develop each and every quality separately. They try to force these qualities. That's not how it works. What you can do is simply do your part, do your daily practice. As a result of that, gradually the faculties will be developed. When the faculties are developing, you get to see the reality. That's how it is. Right? So gradually it's a process of developing, perfecting your faculties. When all the faculties are perfected and balanced, you can say that person is an arahant. When no faculties are there, no balance is there, then you can say that person is an outsider who doesn't know this practice. Right? So it's always a process. We all of us, we start as outsiders who doesn't know this practice and who doesn't have these faculties. But we have traveled in this path for few months, few years. And as a result, we have developed our faculties into a certain level. They are not perfect yet, they are not balanced yet, but at least we have developed into a certain level. Right? So those developed faculties will allow you to feel the true nature of this world, understand or experience the duality or the polarity of this world. That mind is more open. It's open to sounds and it's open to silence as well. It's open to sensations, but it's open to no sensations as well. It's open to thoughts, but it's open to no thoughts as well. That way, the true nature is experienced in this mind. It's always a changing nature of this polarity. It's always changing from joy to sorrow. It's changing from thoughts to no thoughts. It's changing from pain to no pain. So this mind is able to feel this change, or this mind is open to the true nature of things. And more you practice, you are simply there in the present moment. You do your work, you do your daily meditation, you talk to people, you work, all these things happening, but you don't feel like there's a greater meaning beyond this. Many people, they wouldn't like this. They would say, I feel suicidal if there is no greater meaning beyond this. But the practitioners, they gradually develop this ability. More they develop this ability, they can feel they are simply comfortable in the moment. They don't have to argue about dumb aspects. They don't have to worry about tomorrow. They don't have to be anxious about the upcoming events. They have memory, but their minds are not occupied with yesterday. They are simply in the moment. They are simply comfortable there. Right? So that's how the developed mind will experience this world. Doing your daily matters, going to work, talking to people, after many hours of the day, still you don't have many things to recall. You are sure that you were doing them, you are sure that you were mindful, but nothing went to the memory. Same thing happens for your walking and sitting practices. The beginners, they write lengthy reports, 2 pages, 3 pages, describing all details about the walking, sitting. But when they develop their practice at a certain point, they can feel they have been walking for an hour, but still there is nothing to report. You are sure that you were mindful, but nothing went to the memory. At the moment, you feel like, okay, I'll report this. I'm experiencing this, that way you feel. But after the session, when you recall, it becomes more like blurry. You know that you were working, you know that you were mindful, but there is nothing to report. Same goes for the sitting. And same happens in your daily life as well. Right? So that's what the true nature of life is like. You live in the moment, and that's all there is. I have seen this quote from Immanuel Kant, I think his name is, and he says, in this world, two things, they don't have to mean anything. What are these two things? First one is music. It doesn't have to mean anything. The second one is laughter. It doesn't have to mean anything. These two things in this world, they don't have to mean anything. That's what Immanuel Kant is saying. Right? But in life, we live in the present moment. When we talk about the practice, it doesn't have to mean anything. You are in the present, you live your life, but it doesn't have to mean anything. Right? No such opinions, views are there in you. That type of existence is closer to Nibbana, and due to that very nature, you are not experiencing much suffering. Of course, there'd be some friction in the moment. When the weather is too hot, you feel sweat. When the weather is too cold, you feel that difficulty in your body. When the insects bite, it's aching, paining. But that's it, that's all. No extreme levels of suffering due to these emotional chaos, right? So you live in the moment and it doesn't have to mean anything. You simply do your daily things, you simply talk to people, you eat your meals, you drink your drinks, that's all. I don't know that type of existence would be appreciated in the worldly mind. But that's the idea about the practice. If something has gone to memory, you can clearly say there is attachment. Only due to the attachment, it goes to the memory. Imagine, recall certain incidents in your past life, maybe even 10 years back. You can still recall them very clearly, vividly. Why? Because there was strong attachment. Maybe some incident, maybe somebody came and hit you, blamed you, right? So you can clearly recall all of them. Why? Because there was so much attachment, right? When there is less or no attachment, things happen, but they don't really go into the memory. They don't create past pain, suffering, or future anxiety within you, right? So that type of existence would be closer to the peace that we have been talking about. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you, Bante. I hope you can hear me clearly. Next on is reading of the reports.
Anupama, sorry, I think
Yeah,
I'm not sure whether it's for me, but I am having a difficulty hearing you clearly. Maybe we can cross-check with Tarindu as well.
can you hear me now, Bante? I've taken
Uh,
my headphones off.
it's loud and clear now. Yeah.
Is it loud and clear? Okay, thanks. Um, right, thank you. Our next segment is, of course, reading the report that we've received today. Before we move on to the report, we usually do a quick recap. Most of you are aware of this already, but just for the benefit of those who aren't, on how to develop a mindfulness practice and how to submit a report to us so that we can share it with you all and get feedback from Venerable Bante. What we would advise is for you to watch the mindfulness videos for mindful sitting and walking. There is guidance on the Nissaranavane YouTube website. Once you've watched it and understood, develop a daily practice. Preferably start around 20 minutes or so per day. And once you've had a practice of 2 hours in total in a week, we would invite you to submit a report for us to read. Usually what we advise is to either in statement form or you can present it as a question and describe, for example, when you're walking, any pressure points underfoot, or if there is, for example, in your mindfulness breathing, you can describe the sensations of the in and out breath through the nostrils or the movement of the abdomen, etc. So prominent sensations, for example. And once you've done your report, you can submit it via Google form or email. All the information is now in front of you on the screen, links to the YouTube videos, plus how to submit via Google form and email. Now I will move on to the report we have received today, Bante. Mindful walking. Walked in the local area for exercise. Feet movements were brisk, and attention moved between walking movements and freezing air on the skin. Weight shifted rhythmically and feet movements had slowed down. When thoughts proliferated, awareness of feet movements were lost. When when attention returned to the walking body, there were no judgments. Noted looking around more while the mind was bored, and monotony of walking sets in, as if looking for new or more interesting objects. Walked for 40 minutes. Mindful sitting. Sat on the seat and waited. A quick body scan took place. Prominent breath noted. Noticing breath while seated quietly felt familiar. Rhythmic breath noted, but was harder to distinguish between in and out aspects of it. Felt the weight slump and slight rocking movement. Subtle breath noted. Fragments of images floated by. When prominent breath noticed again, it felt like after gap of time. Not sure if mind proliferated or loss of memory due to boredom setting in. Pressure felt as pain. Sat for 50 minutes. Mindfulness during the day. 2025 is ending and 2026 will arrive soon. And yet, the present moment seems to be always here. Easiest way to tap into present is to notice the body. Over the years, it has become easier to access present awareness by noticing the body. This skill has offered a pause in tricky situations with others, and when mental pressure came from future fears and past regrets. Has 2025 been better than 2024? Will 2026 be even better than 2025? No idea. As a general observance, mindful time is increasing. Many years ago, mindfulness practice started out as a deliberate doing, walking purposefully, sitting, noticing breath purposefully. Such challenging work at the beginning. Cannot mention accurately how many times the practice was almost given up, feeling I am a failure, I cannot practice, others seem to walk or sit quietly. Hard to pinpoint when the shift appeared, but it did. Sometimes it felt like 2 feet forward and 3 back. Other times it felt easier. The encouragement from Dhamma teachers, Dhamma friends, and motivation from attending this Dharma group has all helped with hanging in there with the practice. It was quite disjointed at first, and with each passing year it feels smoother and more fluid, like boundaries of formal practice and day-to-day mindfulness are blurring. Overriding feeling at the end of the year is one of gratitude to all the teachers, organizers of this program, Dhamma friends, family members, and anyone else who has been instrumental in this journey of realizing the true Dhamma. Dear Bhante, look forward to your valuable feedback. Theruvan Saranai, end of report.
Yes, so thank you for sharing your experience, your progress. It is not only motivating for you, but for the listeners as well. Right, so that part is important. We share our progress, and as a result, someone who might be still in the darkness, they might get encouraged. Right, so as you mentioned, those initial phases, those initial months, years, they are the hardest because you feel like 2 steps forward, 3 steps backward. That's how it feels. And the progress is painstakingly slow. That's how it is. But when you continue, despite all these troubles, difficulties, then you get to see the light at the end of the tunnel. If someone hasn't seen it, if someone is still in the darkness, so these type of discussions might encourage them. That's why we gather every week. That's why we talk about the same thing every week. That's why we share our experience, although it is the same experience that we have to share, right? That way we keep this discussion active, engaged, and as a result, many people they get encouraged and they continue their practice long enough, they will definitely see this change. The practice works. You simply have to continue. That's all it takes. Right? So it's good progress. I don't know what will happen with the world, but for a practitioner, it is always getting better and better. 2025 is better than 24, and 26 would be even better, right? For the practitioners, it is always getting better and better. The world is full of chaos. It comes and goes. But when you develop your mind, it doesn't matter how the world is, you will always be better off. That's the idea. That's how this works. I saw this insightful video yesterday. Probably like a man who is in his 60s or late 50s. He was sitting somewhere looking at a stick full of wire, and he appeared sad. Then somebody came to him and asked, "Why are you sad?" Initially he was reluctant, but after a while he opened up and he was saying, "I have been working 40 years now. This roll of wire, I got it 40 years ago. Now the wire is almost over." He's talking about wire. He's saying that the wire he got 40 years ago, which was much bigger, now it's almost over. So on the surface, it appears like he's talking about wire, something useless, something not that costly. But in reality, his reflection is about life. He's seeing 40 years of his life through wire, and it's almost over. He's in his 60s, right? So he was thinking, reflecting. At the end of the day, most people have this realization. They understand their life is almost over and they haven't achieved anything. So that comes as a shock. That comes as an existentialism bummer, because they have spent maybe whole of their life, only a few more years to go, and they are in the same place, right? That regret will hit many people quite hard, especially busy people. When they retire, they get this, they become depressed. And when their spouses die, the other one, the remaining one, also dies, right? So that way, many people realize it towards the end of life. It might be too late, it might not be too late, but still, that's not our idea. We came across this message much earlier, and now all of the people who are gathered here, I'm sure they have at least done few months, few years of practice. So that's progress. That's progress. You can clearly say, you can proudly say that I have done this. and it wasn't a waste my past few years of life, right? So that's the very idea. For a practitioner, once again, I'm saying for a practitioner, it's always getting better. So I'm sure 2026 would be even better than 2025.
Thank you, Bante, for those encouraging words and for the report. It certainly helps us all in continuing our motivation and practice and guidance. That is the end of the reports today. It is now time for any Q&A. If anyone has any questions or would like to say something, please raise your Zoom hand so we can invite you to unmute. Ashini, I think you've got your Zoom hand up. If you could unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Sanpama, I sent a reflection report yesterday morning. Did you receive that?
I've just received one report today, Ashini. I can double check with my colleague who usually checks the reports. Give me a few minutes. I'll double check with them and see.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else in the process? If do you have any questions or comments to make?
Anupama, I think there's a statement in the chat as well, I guess.
Okay, I'll check, Bante. Oh, yes, Samantha. I'll unmute you, Samantha. Let me have a look. Right, and
Oh, it's okay, Anupama. If you can just read the
I will.
question, that would be thank you.
No problem. I will have a look at the chat. Dear Bante, by seeing the sensation and the gap, one sees the change and impermanence of everything. Would one then be developing equanimity, so not reacting to situations, but simply accepting objects presented at the sense doors and not proliferating? Thank you, Bante. That is the end of the statement.
Yes, now when you get to see the true nature of things, when you understand that, sounds and silence or thoughts and no thoughts, they are two sides of the same coin, then naturally equanimity will arise. Whether the thoughts are there or whether the no thoughts are there, your mind doesn't create difficulty, or you try to suppress these things, you simply accept, right? So that way we become more and more open to the reality, and that happens through the practice, right? You have to gradually develop the practice. As a result, the equanimity will follow when you get to see the true nature of things. We start with our breath, and gradually our attention is directed towards the gaps in between that comes as a result of the practice. We start with thoughts, let's say, complaining about them, gradually your attention is directed towards the gaps in between thoughts, right? So when you see the full picture, it's natural that you are not shaken by a part of it. That's the whole idea, right? So what I am trying to say is it is not really intentional. You develop your practice as a result of that developed practice, developed faculties. These qualities will arise.
Thank you, Bante. That's very helpful. Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Anupama, can we end the Q&A session?
Myself, yeah, that's better. Thank you, Bante.
There's another question in the chat. I don't know whether we can take it, Swaminathan.
We have few
More minutes, isn't it?
yeah.
Right. So everyone can see the question, but I'll read it out. Teruvan Sarnai Bante, from time to time, some things keep fading away. That happens at some distance and it is blurred, like covered from fog. Still somewhat clear. Although reasons for this can be seen, there is no urge to dig as usual, as that reasoning out also fades away, but mostly based on disappointments with incidents that happen. It urges only to face whatever fades face to face. So it continues accepting them as they are. So the power of those keeps reducing gradually. It slowly happens. Theruvan Sarnai Bante.
Yes, it's slow. It's painstakingly slow, but it is happening. That's the important part. And when the things fades away, you don't have to chase after them. That is not necessary. Some people, when they miss something, they try to chase after it. The thought is already gone, but they try to dig into that thought and figure out what it was. They didn't get to see it clearly. It was like a glimpse of a thought, right? So if that's what you feel, then why chase after it? Clearly, there's no defilement, no. Right? If you feel it properly, if you experience it properly, if you know the vivid details, then only that becomes attachment. So when things fade away, you don't have to chase after them. What you see is enough. Simply be in the moment, and sometimes they appear vivid. Sometimes they are blurry, right? That very observation is enough. We don't have to go chasing after them. If something is blurry, we accept that blurriness. If something is vivid and clear, we accept that, right? That way you have to continue the practice. And we have to understand the practitioners, they get to experience more and more disappointments. In a way, they are not fighting it. They feel like it doesn't matter what you do, time after time, you are disappointed, right? So that we can really take as an encouragement towards our practice, because we now see the true nature of things, right? That very disappointments will lead you towards the practice more and more. That's what Buddha says. Uh, Life, there is a pleasure side and pain side. When you experience only the pleasure part, you are driven more and more towards the worldly things. When you experience the pain part, you are driven towards the Dhamma. Right? So when we experience friction, when we experience disappointments day and night, that's a positive omen. It suggests that you will be driven towards Dhamma more and more. Right? If you didn't have disappointments in your life, I'm sure you won't be here in this gathering. Right? We'll be organizing some 31st night party or something. Right? That's how it is. That's how the life works. So take them as a good omen. Of course, you feel friction. Of course, there's difficulty. But we develop the courage to somehow face them.
Thank you, Bante. I believe that brings us to the conclusion of today's session. Before I hand over to Tarindu, I just want to let Ashini know, I'll double check that the report that we have received from you is read next week. Yeah, so if there is any issue, we'll let you know so you can resubmit it. I hope that's okay. Right. Thank you. I'll hand over to Tarindu now.
Thank you, Venerable Dhammakusalatero, for his guidance as always, and thank you, Doctor. Thank you for conducting the session. And with that, we have come to the end of today's session. So on behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank Venerable Dhammakusalatero once again for the continued guidance on this program. And not forgetting the Chief Abbot of Nisarnavane, who initiated this program, Venerable Bhante Udirigama Dhammajiva Mahatero. May these merits help them in improving their own practices as well. Thank you very much to all the organizers who are maintaining and managing this program. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes, so thank you everyone. And I would like to thank everybody who joined the program today via Zoom and on YouTube live streams. So see you all next week. Until then, I wish you a mindful week ahead. That was